Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Season Keepers, the show where the only people that we recommend keeping for the season is us. My name's Matt, aka Clean Sheet Wipeout.
And my name's James, aka FPL Drug.
Before we get started, the one big thing that I want to do is thank everybody that's interacted, shared, liked, and just sent us DMs of the last few days from the last pod. It's been brilliant. Like, the feedback has been amazing from people, and just to have that positivity, it gives you such a kind of real good vibe about what you're doing.
Yeah, agreed. I genuinely expected probably one, maybe even two comments. So getting more than that was really nice. It's nice to see people genuinely enjoyed it as well. I
Especially,
wasn't expecting such good feedback so early on.
just to see those views on YouTube, and then obviously when we go into the podcast edit, just to see how many people have listened. And was it from people from Australia, Turkey,
New Zealand?
New
It
Zealand?
was, yeah,
It's amazing.
great to see that. People.
Even if it's only one person from there, it's incredible that it's got that far. So
yeah, exactly.
And how do you think it's gone then over the last few days? I know you've been receiving quite a few DMs.
Yeah. It's I think it's been good. I think it's nice to have that interaction with people. It's obviously very rewarding, and I regret you doing that tweet about that FPL diary, because I've got notifications on both the drug account, the season keeper account. But yeah, it looks good. I might actually get that.
Yeah. Oh no. Talking about the that
you
FPL
say it
book,
has a bit for notes and stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I think I'm 40 pages in now, and I really wish I'd got it last season. Like, highly recommend. Is it well worth a look? And I've left an Amazon review now, but even the guys that wrote the book, they instantly got in touch as soon as I posted about it and were asking for feedback. So anybody that's out there that is looking to break that differential, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, I might give it a go. I mean, this sounds like our first plug, but it honestly isn't.
It really isn't. It's just, it's a book that I seen banded around last season. And I'll leave it for now. But
I hadn't heard of it until today, or
Yeah.
yesterday, when it came on. You tweeted about it. I had no idea.
Yeah, no, brilliant. It seems like a lot of people in the community have actually got it. So, all right, moving on. I think a lot of people in the comments that I've received have actually been asking about who we are and how long we've been involved in the community. And I know we've both probably had our accounts for a year or so now, interacting and stuff with people, but no one really knows the background. It's only recently I told people my name's actually Matt. For those within the Planet FPL kind of Slack channel and stuff, they now know who I am. But before that, we're just behind names: Clean Sheet Wipeout and FPL Drug. So, do you want to maybe give a bit about yourself, James?
Yeah, so I never bothered to do a face reveal. I don't think anyone would care too much. I've only got like 400 followers. I don't want to be too self-important. So I just waited for this natural face reveal, I guess, doing the vid. I think they only really care if you're female.
Yeah, there's been a catfish going around, hasn't there? Yeah.
What was it, like FPL captain or something? His name.
Something like that.
I see that every now and again. I don't even follow it, and it's on my timeline all the time.
Yeah, I've seen a few people in the community ousting the catfish and straight up down to say that it's not their account. But that's
the FPL meets Tinder, isn't
it? So very much like that. So how long have you actually had your account then?
So I've had my account for, I think it's 2 years now, my Twitter account. But I've been a player of the game for quite a while. My first season was in 2008, 2009.
Wow, that's long 16. Before mine.
So I'm not sure if you have to be 18. I don't know. I think I was 16, so I've made an email address in my dad's name for a couple of years.
I think I was long doing the Sun Dream team, and I only joined in 13, 14 was my first season.
Oh, really?
I think it was you that convinced me to get involved, to be fair, because
it probably was.
It was good, 10 years since moving to England and following Scottish football. So he followed Saints, and you got me involved in FPL and getting our friendship group. I think that kind of really pushed it forward, didn't it? Like, became competitive, and you can see it in some of our ranks that we'll go through later, that the more people that joined, the more serious we took it.
Well, yeah, our mate that actually did terrible this season, he won the first one. And I think ever since he won that first one. I haven't had any of it.
He's got off the boil, hasn't he? But at least he's given us some comments on the YouTube and Spotify, so he's still involved.
Yeah, true. At least we know he's listening if he makes a comment about this. So.
Exactly. He'll know what we're talking about. What drove you to getting your account then? Because I know you you doing your account the year before I did mine kind of inspired me to get involved because I've seen how interactive you were.
For me, it was just I didn't want to rabbit on about FPL constantly to other people that obviously don't care about it.
Yeah.
So my personal account, obviously, that's for just any old kind of talking about TV, books, moaning about general life.
Yeah.
Which people in FPL don't want to see. So it makes sense to have the two separate accounts. I know people do, and I personally don't really care too much if people put their personal shit on FPL.
No, not at all.
I just kind of zone it out or whatever. But yeah, no, it's wanting to have just a dedicated account to all these ramblings that we do.
No, of course. I think I found that I actually don't use my personal account anywhere near as much as I used to now because I think a lot of my tweets were probably sport related. So I now just focus, on obviously Saints and Hearts for the two teams for me. But that kind of obviously goes on my clean sheet wipeout account now. And
yeah, it's the same for me.
I just kind of do it through there. And I've even started to kind of throw in the odd personal tweet. Obviously, when me and Ali got engaged last September, thought I'd post it in the community. The response was incredible. Like the community gets behind people, and that's the one thing I think that's driven me to try and push this is the fact that the FPL community as a whole generally are amazing.
Yeah, there's people that go through hard times like redundancy or bereavement I've seen, and everyone sort of helps each other out, which is obviously quite nice.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's all well and good, we do these threads and stuff for likes, or we make comments and try and get people involved. But as soon as you see that someone's down, someone's always there to pick you back up. I think that's probably why I've dropped my main account, really, because I feel you can throw that stuff out there and people jump on it, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do.
Well, should we move on to last season stats? Because I know you're quite keen to talk about how good a season you actually had.
Yeah.
I'll throw this one to you to start with then.
Yeah, it was a fantastic season, which I didn't really see coming. It didn't start well, so don't be disheartened if you have a bad start. Well, my worst was game week 3. No, it was I was at 4 mil, and I was still 3, even 2 mil up until game week 9.
Yeah, I think I remember you being considerably behind me and me thinking, this is a breeze. I'm loving this season, and then the tides turned.
Yeah, I was 2 millionth, and then I had a good week. I got 77, and that shot me a whole million, which is pretty good.
Impressive.
And then I really started to hit, I think I got about 6-7 consecutive greens from 13 onwards, taking me from that million right up to 70k. So about halfway through, I was sat at 70k.
Wow.
Which obviously put me in good stead for the second half of the season.
No, of course. I think, do you agree that, I guess, not nailing that game week 1, game week 2, game week 3 team, as you've proven this season, you can quite easily come back from that. And I see a lot of people get disheartened by the fact that, in game week 1, that they've got a game week rank of 3.5 mil, but the difference between you and the person that got, 10k, it's probably about 5-6 points in it sometimes. So it's it just shows how easily it can change. And I think your post lockdown is where you really turned it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think the start of the season, like you're kind of feeling your way into the season, like you're trying to work out which of the new buys are going to perform. Players that were in form last season won't necessarily be in form the next season. You're feeling your way into the season, so there's no point getting disheartened. You just got to keep your chin up and keep going, and hope that eventually your logic, your methods will pay off.
Yeah, of course.
And with regards to lockdown, obviously I had all my sort of chips, the key chips, sort of around that kind of time. So I had my bench boost, my free hit, my second wild card, and I deployed them around then. I think obviously the best strategy, as most people know, is to keep your chips for as long as you can, because that can give you an edge towards the end of the season. Obviously, if you see a game week where you want to play it, by all means play it. If you see the opportunity there, you can do well. Like you can triple captain Salah against Watford or whatever and get a solid 30, 40, 50, 60 point haul.
No, of course. And,
with my triple captain, actually, wasn't good. It was Sadio Mane's 1-pointer. I think quite a few people did that triple captain, and God, if I'd have nailed that, I'd be.
Yeah, well, I remember. I think I triple captained Trent the same week, and obviously it was heartbreaking even on the other side just to see how many people had triple captained Mane. Obviously, for that 1-pointer, goes off injured, doesn't play the next game. But again, it shows that even if you don't nail that triple captain, to go from where you were to finishing top 4K,
top 4K.
Can't complain about that. And obviously, you touched on there with the chips. I think this season was a little bit different, wasn't it? Because a lot of us had held those chips with a view for the double game weeks and the blanks. Obviously, following Ben Crellin, that really, really helps. But those all disappeared. So we were suddenly left with 8 game weeks where we had a free hit, a bench boost. Some people even had their triple captain, left or a wild card. And that kind of made things quite interesting, and the difference between people's strategies going from game week 30. Because in 30 plus, I played my my bench boost, and it's the best score that I had. I think I got 137 with a game week rank of
I was quite worried.
2,170. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, I'm only 30 points behind you. I'm going to catch you." And then from then, when I then obviously played my free hit, didn't really go very well, and you just shot on. I ended up finishing, I think it was 79k at the end of the season, which was about 110 points behind yourself.
Yeah, it just shows how things can change. I think a lot of people around lockdown started to panic / want to cram it all the must-have players in. So there was a lot of points hits flying about, whereas I was literally just using my free transfers each week. I'd target what team I think was going to get a clean sheet, put them in.
And do you think there was a key moment post lockdown that you potentially nailed a transfer that changed the projection of your season?
I think going on the United trio at the right time early on. So Martial, I went Martial, Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes.
Oh yeah,
more Martial than Rashford was useful to me. I think Martial was a great choice.
I've been burned by Martial too many times that I was far too stubborn to get him, and I ended up going down the route of Bruno, Greenwood, and David bloody De Gea. And had I not gone that route and had Martial, there would have been a massive difference in points there. But
yeah, if you went Martial instead of De Gea, that would have been.
I think it definitely taught me to not be too stubborn, because it really fucks you over.
Yeah, well, I was nearly too stubborn with Greenwood. I wasn't going to bring him in, but eventually I did cave in, and I'm glad I did.
He just carried on, didn't he? Carried on with points. Some of those goals were unbelievable.
So yeah, Martial, I took out Grealish in game week 32. That was just as Grealish was going off the boil, and then I caught Martial just at the right time. So there is an element of luck involved, because I mean, Martial could have gone on the bad run. Grealish could have carried on doing well. Nothing's certain in the game, but you just got to make your best educated decisions.
He just seemed to continue scoring, didn't he? It was game after game. I was like, nah, Martial's going to go off the ball now. I'm not going to get him. Week after week, he absolutely bloody punished me.
I also noticed Solskjaer was playing him pretty much every game.
Yep.
Yeah, he'd come off about 10 minutes before the end, but 77, 78 minutes, he was playing every game. Midweek,
he was playing with a smile.
Saturday,
that was a huge thing, like playing with a smile. And even when, he had scored 2 goals in the game and Solskjaer brought him off in the 85th minute, he was fuming. It was almost like a completely different Martial, which is the Martial that I hope that comes into this season, because priced it, as we touched on in the last episode, priced at 9 mil. I think he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he's a lot happier playing through the middle. I think he didn't like being pushed out on the wing, and now obviously he's back in the middle, and he's happy.
Yeah, I think it affects Rashford a little bit. I don't think he's as good an FPL asset as say he was, and he's more expensive than Martial this season. But Greenwood at 7.5 million playing alongside Martial.
Yeah, I think
If you can afford to double up on those two, then I'd probably look to do that.
in my current draft, I have both.
Yeah.
Greenwood and Martial, but I don't have Bruno, which is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, it's obviously everybody keeps going on about but it's just Penn's. No, I think he brings so much to that United team.
There is more to him than Penn's, but even if there isn't, it still gets a lot of Pens.
Oh, absolutely, and he attracts bonus points.
Yeah.
For me, looking at this next season, captaincy is one of the biggest things that I want to avoid, because I only nailed captaincy 22 out of 38 times. By say nail when they scored 10 or more points. But I had 14 different captains last season. And for me, that feels far too much. I kind of, the mantra that I'm taking for the next season is I want to look at maybe doing 2 or 3 players that I know that I will captain. And if there's any of these other higher assets, the 10.5, 11 mils, if I look at them and think I'll never captain them, why am I bringing them in?
True, very true.
So
I think I'll be looking at players like Aubameyang for captain. I think, he'll get the odd 2-pointer, but more often than not, he's going to have games where he scores 2 goals, a couple of assists, maybe. And in midfield, he's going to be getting more points. He's essentially now Salah.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. There's been a real debate, I think I've seen on Twitter in the past couple of days, of people saying, Aubameyang's absolutely essential. That's a word I hate, because I don't think anybody in the game's essential, but people are banding that around. Yeah. And there's other people that are saying that they just don't want him because they don't trust Arsenal. But for me, I think Aubameyang at 12 mil as a midfielder, if you can have him, I'd take him. And let's say you've got Aubameyang, I know it's going to be very difficult this season, but I think Aubameyang, Martial, KDB, Salah, you could captain all of them. So it's players like that I'd probably want to look at. And then the ones that are slightly lower down the pecking order, but maybe feeling slightly too high a price. Like say you've got KDB over Sterling on the debate, Salah over Mane. Which one would you captain? Because for me, KDB and Salah are the captaincy choices there. So would I then have Sterling if I don't feel that I'm ever going to captain him?
True. Yeah, very true.
So I think that's the tricky bit.
Well, he's more of a risk. Like, I think he gets benched way more than Kevin De Bruyne does.
Certainly feels like it. And again, Sterling, he has his days where he can score a hat-trick, but then he has his days where he plays really well and then misses from 2 yards out, which we'll touch on later on.
But yeah, you don't know what season he's going to have, really, to be honest.
No, so it's a real shame. So have you got any particular transfers or stats and stuff that you want to talk about from last season?
Yes. Sorry, what?
So I know that you said that you'd been looking at your transfers, hadn't you? And kind of analysing.
It was the key one I picked out was the one I mentioned earlier. Sorry, I got a bit confused. The Martial coming in for Grealish was the key standout for me, I think.
Do you know how many points? Do you know how many points hits you took last season?
It wasn't many.
Yeah, because I think you were a lot more risk-free than I was in a sense, because I took 28. I didn't realise, but I took a minus 28 in total. And I think that was better than last season. But again, looking through some of my transfers, I'm taking needless minus 4s when the players that I'm taking out, they go on next week and they get an assist. And it's the risk versus reward, I think, that is one of the key things we need to properly seriously consider.
I had a fair amount of hits. I think mine was about minus 20 in total. I think I did 1 minus 8 and about 3 minus 4s.
Okay, that's not too bad.
So it's less than I have done previously, and I think I'll do even less hits this coming season. I think it's you should only do unless you feel it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
like you've got to think like that minus 4 is that player you're bringing in getting 6 points or at least 6 points. Yeah. Because if not, then that player that you would have just picked up 2 points, even if they didn't deliver, it's not worth it. hello to your cat.
Yeah, I know. My cat just
The
casually
people on
ran
the
across the
podcast
screen.
just ran across the
Yep.
screen.
For those on YouTube, they'll get a nice view of my cat's arse there. I do apologise.
You have to mark this one as explicit as well now.
Yeah, I know it might take Apple a while to put that through, but no, I think looking at that points hits, obviously, you talk about risk. My dad, he made a couple of mentions on this show throughout the season, but he's in our mini league occasionally, and some of the points hits he takes is irrational. He'll take -12s for like transfers, and then moans when the player he took out scores. So he might be a bit of comedy value on this show.
Yeah.
I think
do a segment on it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've obviously both got my fiance and your girlfriend involved as well, and they're quite competitive between each other, aren't they? So
They are, yeah.
that's
They
always good
both
fun.
know arguably nothing about football.
Yeah, they kind of just follow us, but we've both recommended they follow the show. So
Well, at least they know a decent amount of players now.
they do, yeah. Oh, some of the transfers that Ellie was making were unbelievable towards the end of the season. I think there was one point where I thought she was genuinely going to overtake me, particularly the week where she left the captaincy by complete accident on Raheem Sterling, and then he scores a hat-trick. It just sums up this game, doesn't it?
Typical.
So, in your historical performance, obviously, we're going to go a bit back on ours. I think 4K is your best, isn't it?
Yeah, easily my best. Before that, it was 59, maybe 56, 59K, I think.
Still very good.
Yeah, the last 5 seasons, I've come inside the top 100K.
I think I've done my best is 40K, which I'm desperate to kind of beat this season, which is part of the reason why I bought that book. And obviously, I think starting the account on Twitter last season really helped, and it kind of focuses a little bit. As long as you don't get kind of drawn too much into that Twitter bubble, as we spoke about, when Chris Wood suddenly became essential towards the end of last season, but you look at his ownership and it's still 8%. I think it's quite key not to get too drawn in, but at the same time, there's some brilliant conversations out there. There's some exceptional stats.
Yeah.
But I think, 40K is my best. I've done a 150, 96, and then this season 79. So both aim to improve on that this season.
Yeah, I just aim to beat myself, really.
I think that's one of the big things, and obviously, if you can get a competitive league, then it's always good to try and chase each other.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one thing I haven't mentioned is team value. I think that helped last season.
That's one thing I really struggled on with last season. I know, like some people say it's not important, but you had 4.5 million in the bank compared to me, and that kind of made some of your transfers, obviously post lockdown when we had the technically the free wild card, you had a lot more scope to get some players that I couldn't. So that was one of the biggest things.
It makes it there are more options available to you. It means you can cram in more premiums and still have like a decent rest of your team. My peak value was 107.9, which is fairly high. I've seen higher, but it was a real high team value, which I maintained until the end of the season. Pretty much, it was still 107.4. I wasn't even caring about the team value at the end, but it was something that I just built up.
Yeah, my team value, I think, only peaked
coincides with my performance.
Oh no, of course. Like I think 103.5 was my highest team value looking at it, and I kind of struggled coming out of that, and it was partly because I was far too stubborn. And again, like I've mentioned, that's something I want to focus on, keeping the likes of Matt Ryan. When albeit he was really good to start with, and then he went off the boil, and I didn't want to change my keeper. Whereas you had the likes of Nick Pope rising, and Henderson. And I was just losing value, not gaining points. Again, there was plenty of other players out there I held on to for far too long that started to drop in price. And, when you want to go to the players you try to get to and you can't because you're 0.1 bloody out, it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's always so frustrating.
It's always that 0.1.
And then that player will do really well, the one you couldn't afford.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to kind of recent news, how do you feel about both Manchester clubs not making it to the final?
Personally, it's obviously a real shock with City. I think most people would have them down to beat Lyon. And obviously they didn't. I think they have some sort of, I don't know if it's a mental block in Europe. They just don't seem as confident in Europe. I know the fans, obviously, City fans aren't big fans of UEFA, and they don't seem to, obviously, you can understand they don't really respect the competition. They don't respect the people. Obviously, they're dying to win it,
Yeah.
but it's
No, it came as a real
I don't
surprise for
know.
me. I think, well, obviously, with
Yeah.
City beating Madrid, albeit thanks to Varane, partly. But I thought, okay, now they're going to this Lyon game. They're playing exactly the same tempo, exactly the same mannerisms. And as soon as Sterling misses that, oh, we're going to say it, that absolute sitter from a couple of yards out, only for Lyon to go up the other end a minute later and capitalise on an Ederson mistake, which, again, is very much unlike him. It kind of summed up City in the Champions League the past few seasons, didn't it? And then De Bruyne's comments again, after the game saying, different season, same story. It's quite worrying.
Yeah, no, it is. That kind of sums it up, really. I think if they were going to win it, like this was a real good chance of winning it. Like you've not got Barcelona, you've not got Real Madrid. It's like only obviously Bayern Munich are the key team that's left in it. Really,
I think they'll win the final comfortably, in my opinion.
I think like City had a good opportunity to win it this year to get in the final.
So. Yeah, and again, I think similar with United. I know Sevilla's quite a difficult opponent. They're pros in the Europa League, aren't they? But,
yeah, that's their competition. They love it.
Yeah, they absolutely love it. But to see them again go out, I think was unfortunate. But it does open up, some drafting options for our start of our game weeks. I know it's not confirmed yet, and we're likely, hopefully, to get the fixtures this Friday. But we might be able to consider the likes of United and City for our game week 1 teams. Whereas I was very, very reserved. I've personally not drafted yet, and it was mainly because I want to see the fixtures. But I was too reserved in having the likes of Martial and De Bruyne, only to realise I can't have them till game week 3. And then, try and switch them about. But do you think that with United and City maybe missing game week 1 still, obviously we'll find out because they're supposed to get this 30 days, do you think early wildcards will be an option? Or do you think people will just bring them in for that 1 game week?
I personally think because they're likely to only miss probably 1 game week at most, I'd say. I think it's worth just putting the City and United players you want in your team, and then providing you've got a decent team, just playing your bench players.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you.
The main thing is having them in, like, ready.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, like, accidentally miss out on a game week 2 or 3 fixture or get on another bus instead, and then you're wasting transfers down the line. Whereas if they're already in your team, you can fix other problems that happen. Not thinking, I've got to use my transfer to get Martial in. Like, he's already there.
You don't want to be taking hits that early in the season, do you? I know, obviously.
No, exactly. And people will.
Yeah, no, of course they will. I've seen -8s and -12s banded around after the first game of the season. It's because people think that the players they haven't brought in haven't performed. Whereas if you held them in, game weeks 2 and 3, that they might pull good. But I think there are a lot of people out there that would be a bit too hasty. And I've been like that in the past. When I first started this, I think I set up a team and 4, maybe 5 players didn't even start. So I was instantly taking a -12 to try and sort that, only for 2-3 game weeks later, they nailed their position in the starting 11. So it's
to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pricing as well, particularly for the likes of KDB and Martial, if you don't have them from the start, FPL have made it that I think a lot of people will have them, which kind of disappoints me. I really was hoping that they'd maybe push the prices of some of these players a bit more. And the fact you can get KDB for 11.5, cheaper than Salah. You can get,
I think, if they had made KDB, say, 12.5, that would have put maybe a few more people off.
Yeah, no, I agreed. And obviously,
I think people would still have him at 12.5 million.
Oh, I think they would. And same with Trent, like 7.5 million. Personally, I think I would have taken him at 8.5 maybe. And the fact you can get Martial for $1 million cheaper than, say, Vardy, and $500,000 cheaper than Werner, who's unproven, and there are some opinions about that he might not even start the season. He might get the same Pulisic treatment and kind of brought in slowly but surely. So we'll have to wait and see. But you kind of don't want to miss out on that, because if they have got such a high ownership, instantly, they kind of get the 0.1, 0.2 rank rises. I'm starting to glow. There's
Just say you're starting to look a bit like Jesus here.
I know I am. The light in this lounge is exceptional in my face. If you're on YouTube, is very white. So obviously moving on. Then we've kindly got some questions from the FPL community, which again has been brilliant to have people actually want to interactive with the show. And I'm going to throw the first one to you, which is from RichP_FPL. I've had some good chats with this lad. He says, now the game is live, can you see any bargains that are out there?
Okay, I've compiled a list for bargains that are in. I've just realised every position except from goalkeeper. I don't think there are any goalkeeping bargains.
I don't think you can call the likes of Matt Ryan at $4.5 million a bargain. So
he's not a bargain. You don't want Brighton goalkeepers.
No. The only one I'd maybe mention goalkeeper-wise might be Nyland at $4 million, only because of Heaton's injury.
4.5. I swear he's 4.5.
Be worth checking. I thought he was 4.
Okay, he's in my draft, so I should know, but I'll have to double check.
It'd be worth keeping an eye, just obviously with Heaton not being fit for the start of the season. So if Villa don't sign a goalkeeper.
No, he is 4 million. You're right. Yeah,
no, I thought so.
That's probably why he's in my team.
Yeah. If he's starting at 4 million, that's somewhere where you can save $500,000, and that could make a huge difference, kind of, in your midfield.
Exactly. Some of these that I've compiled are just, I think, well priced. I think they may be slightly underpriced. They're not necessarily bargains, but they are good options, and some are actual bargains. I think Ferguson, the defender of Crystal Palace, who's just come from West Brom, I think he's a bargain. He's only £4 million. I think he's going to play it right back, but he can also play at centre back. So it's very versatile. He probably will have the potential to be a mainstay of Palace's defence.
No, I've seen his name quite a lot.
Yeah, he's only young. He's only 4 million. I think even if he doesn't play every game, although I think he will, he's still 4.0 million. Like, it's perfect for your bench.
Yeah,
if you want
can't be sniffed at.
At that price point, you're going to struggle to get people that play every single game week.
And we always look for that 4 million, don't we? Like, obviously we had Lundstrom last season.
Yeah,
praise the Lord.
He could be not necessarily this season's Lundstrom. Like, he's not going to be bombing it forward. He's not an attacking mid, but he's definitely a good option. So I think my first bargain, so to speak, would be Ferguson. Someone who I think is good value, also in defence, is Justin at Leicester. He's 4.5, and I was expecting him to come in at about 5. So it's 0.5 mil less than I expected. I think he looked quite good going forward as a wing back for Leicester. I remember him hitting the bar. I think he got an assist, maybe a couple of assists.
Yeah, I had him in my post-lockdown team.
Yeah, I think he's worth considering. I mean, I guess you could wait and see how Leicester get on, see how their defence is looking, see whether they're likely to keep clean sheets, maybe not put him in from the outset. Another 4.5 mil defender, maybe that I'd prefer over Justin, is actually Kyle Walker-Peters.
Yep, obviously Saints.
Yeah, Saints, exactly. I think our defence looked a lot better towards the end of last season. I think he's the player that's got a potential to get maybe a few assists. I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned this the last pod, but he got obviously 3 assists in one game for Spurs. Yeah. He looks like a talented fullback. He reminds me of like sort of how Bertrand was when he joined.
No, I agree.
So I think he's a good attacking fullback. Good stamina.
Interestingly, they've obviously priced Salisu at $4.5 million as well, which I thought they were going to put him in at 5 to match Jack Stevens. So if he again now is a starting berth, I know he's got quite a good pedigree behind him from where he's come from. So
yeah, no, he's a good player. So I mean, at that price, it's worth considering.
And are there any midfielders that you'd like to jump on?
Yeah, so into midfield, obviously you got Foden at 6.5 mil. I think people are going to be looking at Foden. I think, but obviously that it will still hinge on Pep through that. You still don't know. Probably even Pep doesn't even know what he's going to do yet.
No, yeah, I think Foden is definitely a wait and see for me because
yeah, you see
nobody
how he
can
uses him.
confirm like whether he starts. There's obviously the talk that David Silva's gone, Foden comes straight in, but I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Two standouts for me at 5.5 are Trezeguet for Villa and
Okay.
Son Maximin for Newcastle. I think they're both good options. I think Trezeguet is maybe more under the radar than Son Maximin. Trezeguet had a good finish to the season. I think he's actually a better option than Grealish. I think is Grealish like 7
7
million?
million, yeah.
I think at 5.5, I'd go Trezeguet personally. If you're gonna go Villa,
And
I'd go.
I'd say obviously again similar price bracket, and shameless plug. Obviously, we're both Saints fans, and we'll talk about that quite a lot on this show. But Armstrong at 5.5 million as well. I think he's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, another great player around that price point. Again, back end of last season looked very strong. I think he's definitely one to consider.
It feels strange plugging Saints players.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I've actually put down Diangana in midfield at 5.5. Obviously, people are going to be more inclined to go with Soucek at 5 million, so
Yeah.
0.5 less. If you want to go against the grain, have someone a bit different, I'd maybe go Diangana. I could see him feeding Antonio for a good few goals, potentially. Obviously, we don't know yet because it's not happened, but yeah, he was strong on loan for West Brom last season. I think he's one to worth considering. Maybe a wait and see, but I guess if you've had a bad season last season, you can gamble on these sorts of players early on and get a bit of momentum.
No, of course. Obviously, I think a lot of people will go Soucek, but like you said, if you want to go against the grain, there's these other differentials that are out there. And have you got anyone in the forward line?
Forward line, we're a bit more restricted. I've only managed to pick 3. I think not many people are going to have 3 strikers as well this season. I think there's going to be less emphasis on 4-3-3s. But the strikers I've picked are Jay Rodriguez at 6 mil. I think he's slightly underpriced. I think he looked good at the end of the last season, and he will get goals if he can stay fit. I think Burnley, Sean Dyche sets the team up very well. I think J Rod looked pretty confident.
He scored a few good goals, didn't he?
Yes, he scores great goals. Like we remember that from Saints.
We did.
Yeah, I think we missed him when he left. At first, I don't think we were bothered, but then
he was so close to obviously getting his England call-ups and stuff, and then he got that injury, which was a real shame.
The other 2 I picked, obviously Che Adams, 6 mil. I think a lot of people were mentioning Adams. I think providing he starts as up front with Ings, then I think he's gonna get goals.
I agree.
His hoodoo is gone, so to speak. He's looking sharper. I think he always had those sort of chances. He was just really unlucky.
Yep.
Consistently unlucky. So I think he's worth considering if you can't stretch to Ings. But obviously Ings, you know what you're getting. So Ings is still a great buy. Obviously not a bargain anymore. He's 8.5, but he's still good value, I'd say. And the final pick up front is Antonio at 6.5 for West Ham.
Yeah, I think he's been well priced.
I think that's a really good price for him. I think it's definitely not too high. I think despite his reclassification, I think that's still really good value. Yeah. I think if you can have a third striker that's actually decent, I think Antonio, or even a second striker, and have more emphasis in midfield, which obviously a lot of people are going to be doing. Yeah. I think Antonio could quite easily be your second striker.
No, I think that the last one that I'll throw in, and obviously it's a little bit more expensive, but I am astounded that Sergio Aguero has been priced at 10.5 million.
I completely forgot about that. I think I sorted my price when I was searching through them to below 10 million. So I obviously didn't.
If he starts the season fit and firing again, 10.5 million for Sergio Aguero, we've not seen that before.
No,
he's definitely to consider.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I think that's a great shout. That is. I think first game week of the season, if we don't have him in, he scores 2 goals. We're thinking, what are we doing?
Yeah,
He's a proven goal scorer, and he's at 10.5 million. What are we doing?
I agree. We've had another question in from FPL Zikri, who I'm in a draft league with, and he's a good lad. How do you think the reclassification of all wingers into midfielders will change your strategy? I know for me, I'm edging towards having 5 in midfield this season and 5 starters, because I think there's so much choice now. Obviously, we've had Greenwood and Rashford, Aubameyang, all reclassified as midfielders. And obviously, I know we've had the likes of Richarlison go the other way and Antonio, but to pull those like stalwart FPL names into midfield, it's really congested now.
It is. Agreed. I'm thinking 3-5-2 or 4-5-1.
Yeah, I think most
probably more inclined to do 3-5-2. I think we're going to see a hell of a lot of 3-5-2s. I think that 5 in midfield is going to be what people are targeting. I think the question is, I think it's going to be who's your 5th midfielder. I think that's what's going to set you out from the rest, because I think pretty much everyone, well, not everyone, obviously a lot of people are going to have. A lot of people are going to have De Bruyne. Maybe not everyone will have Aubameyang, but a lot of people will have Aubameyang. And then Greenwood, I think, is going to be a common staple of people's teams. I think at that price,
he's a good price.
To be in your team. It's just a question of maybe, the 5th mid. Who's that going to be?
I think the tricky thing with this now is obviously there's no real good 4.5 mil striker options. Obviously, you've got Connor Wickham, doesn't really play. The biggest one I want to keep an eye out for, and it's worth seeing where he goes, is Ryan Brewster. Because if he, as the rumours are, goes on loan to a Premier League team and starts up top for a Premier League team at 4.5 million, that's that 2nd, 3rd striker spot that you want, that could quite easily then aid in going in this 3-5-2, 4-5-1 direction.
I think it'd be good at someone like Palace. I think up front with like Zaha. Yep. I think that might work quite well.
I think it'd suit him.
I think if you get them working well together, that would be a decent option. I think if you went to somewhere like Fulham, I'm not too sure how it'd go on there. I mean, maybe it'd form a decent partnership with Mitrovic. You don't know.
Potentially. He seems like quite a tricky man to form a partnership with. So obviously we had the penalty incident the last time that they were in the Premier League. So that was an interesting one. So whether Brewster and Mitrovic would square up in the pen box.
Yeah. Can he form a partnership with anyone?
Well, exactly. We've had an interesting question from FPL Irons, obviously part of the Wolf Pack. He's gone, what is going to be your USP? I think this is a brilliant question. Have you thought about this?
Well, I did. I was like, other than Matt being ginger, I'm not too sure.
Bastard.
I've not seen many ginger podcasters out there.
No, genuinely, I don't think I could. I don't think I've seen a ginger podcaster. So yeah, that could be our USP, I suppose. But feels a bit weird.
Well, comment, tweet us if you're a ginger podcaster, and then we'll watch your podcast.
Yeah, let us know, or even if you've got a YouTube show, FPL podcast, give us a shout.
On a more serious note, I think we're 2 friends that are now in 2 different parts of the country, unified by the same passion for the same team and the same hobby, that is FPL. We've been friends for a very long time.
17 years.
Yeah, hell of a long time. And I think it's nice to have this connection. Obviously, we don't see each other as much anymore. I live in Manchester. Matt lives in Dorset.
Yep.
So obviously, there's a big distance between those places. But now we're doing this. It means I get to speak to him quite a lot.
Oh, it does, yeah. No, it's brilliant. And obviously, you were down the other day, which was quite nice to see. But like you said, it's difficult when we're split by 450 miles. So to have this together, I think when we spoke about this quite a few months ago now, we were both, pretty adamant that it was something we wanted to do. And I'm glad that we've taken that step. Which I suppose...
Yeah.
Talking
one
about
thing saying it, but it's another actually doing it. And once we started doing it, it was quite exciting. It was quite fun.
Yeah, no.
Even the editing was interesting. It was.
It's a learning process, isn't it? It's definitely a learning process. I think that
Yeah, got a
probably
lot of good.
our history leads quite well onto FPL Andy's last question, which we'll touch on. And he's actually thrown 3 questions into the one. The first one, what made you want to start doing a podcast? The second, is it something that we've been thinking about for a while? And the third is, how did we become Southampton fans? So obviously we've touched on what made us want to start doing a podcast. So the connection, that's really strong. And the fact that we've got the friendship 17 years, it's something that we both, I think out of our friendship group, we're probably the 2 most passionate ones about FPL.
Oh,
That
definitely.
probably shows in the league table year in, year out.
They care way more than everyone else.
Yeah, and obviously, is it something we've been thinking about for a while? Well, we've been considering it during lockdown, really, weren't we? As a way to maybe jump into this season. But
Yeah,
the big question,
ideal
how
time
did we
to do it.
become Saints fans? I know that your story is different and my story is very different. So do you want to touch on that quick?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I actually started out as a Newcastle fan. I was a big fan of Alan Shearer when I was about sort of 6. So seeing him in the 1998 World Cup, watching the great Newcastle team at that sort of time with Kevin Keegan. Like when I was really young, I still vaguely remember. I remember us getting to the FA Cup final in '98 and '99, losing both of them. I was basically a diehard Newcastle fan up until about age 13 and 14. And then I started to obviously get frustrated of not being able to see Newcastle as often as I'd like. Like I think I saw 1 game, and that was at Southampton. So I got a season ticket in the Championship the season after Saints went down. I was watching Championship football, and I just fell in love with my local team. Got the real passion there. Like I could just basically more accessible to me. All my family are Southampton fans, so I'm born and bred in Southampton. And yeah, I just fell in love with the team, and now it's like I was born supporting them.
I remember the progressive change in secondary school. Obviously, meeting you, starting off as a Geordie fan, and then eventually, turning up to footy in your Saints top. I was like, oh, what have we got here?
I was in denial at first. I was like, no, I just like Saints.
Yeah, I know.
Newcastle. I just like Saints. And then by the time I was about 16, 17, it really started to change.
I think for me, it's very much a family tie. Like I grew up in Scotland, just outside Edinburgh, supporting Hearts, going down Tynecastle regularly with my dad. But I'd always keep an eye on Saints, and on my dad, born and bred, grew up in Southampton. So I'd come there, and then I moved to Southampton in 2003, and instantly, went to the ground with dad, kept going to games regularly, eventually got a season ticket and fell in love with the club like more than I ever thought I could. And from then, obviously, I always keep an eye on Hearts, but yeah, Saints, definitely the ones for me. And the history of the club is obviously quite an interesting one. And the more recent history, just seeing the club obviously go through the Championship, League One, that the kind of potentially going out of business. We've definitely got a story behind us, which is another one of these things that makes me incredibly passionate about the club. And then to get back to where we were, obviously, me and you went to Milan to see Saints at the San Siro was probably the highlight of me supporting. It was just an unbelievable weekend.
It was a trip of a lifetime. I think it's something like maybe Liverpool away fans, Man United away fans take for granted. I think that was it, like the pinnacle for us. Going to Milan to see our team, our little old Southampton, I guess, away in Milan against the giants of Inter Milan. I mean, I know the team of Inter Milan then wasn't exactly
they weren't at the peak, were they?
They weren't at the peak. I went on a blank then. I couldn't think of any Milan players. I was like, fuck.
That's why we've got each other, mate. That's why we've got each other.
Yeah, the first one, I just Inzaghi came to my head. I'm like, no, that's AC.
Yeah, wasn't that?
Zanetti, there we go.
That's the one. I don't think it gets much better, does it? Like for a little old Southampton to go all the way to the San Siro, I think that was peak. I suppose that kind of draws us to a good end to the show, because we're pushing an hour again.
Yes,
I know we said we wouldn't, but I think it was important to maybe talk a bit about ourselves and let people know who we are. Obviously, try and drum that interaction between us all. But as always, appreciate everybody's likes, comments, shares, and feel free to let us know what you think, and keep pushing, and we'll keep pushing for you. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, James.
And you, Matt.
We will no doubt text as we always do, but I will see you on the show next week.
All right. See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.